What happens if the government issues digital currency? Like, what does that mean?
Well, digital currency is right. You're talking about central bank digital currencies.
Yeah.
Okay, and that there's a great deal of appeal because of the fact that it's easy and so on. But it's and I think it'll be done. A lot happens.
Do you think it will be done?
Yeah. I think it's, but what happens in the digital currency, of course, it's easy to transact and so on, and it'll be like money market funds, I think. The question will be first, will they be able to offer interest? So there's a debate now as to whether they will be interest. If they're not able to offer interest, and there will be a debate, probably they won't be. But then they're not an effective vehicle to hold it in because you'll have the depreciation.
Of course.
You'd rather hold it in a money market fund or a bond, but that's debate. There will be no privacy, and it's a very effective controlling mechanism by the government. What I mean is all the transactions will be known. All transactions done with digital currencies will be known.
Shalom, Makim, Shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor is due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakapadash, double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone, peace and blessings and salutations to the whole elect. Noise in the gospel, brothers, not the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the Spirit. Lord is going to be edifying. It says here, central bank digital currencies are coming, no privacy. All transactions will be known. If you're politically disfavored, you can be shut off. Okay, it says this isn't a new form of money. Control over how you spend, control over where you spend, control over where you can spend it all. This is the ultimate form of control, all right? As we told you, the Esau Edom is building a totalitarian system, and everything you do will be monitored, tracked, and underkept, so to speak. We've been called conspiracy theorists. We've been labeled DTs. We've been labeled madmen, and yet you still got groups out there that don't seem to understand its privacy, or they don't care enough to speak on it to warn their followers. There was a video that came out last week with Captain Zazariak, man, and he passed the mantle to what's his name, Captain Kaptazar, something, if I'm not mistaken, to break down what the MOTB is. And these guys totally butchered it, man. Which is crazy, because how can you not understand what the mark of the beast is according to the Bible when everything is gearing over to a technocracy? Okay, you got all these technocrats and PR, what do you call NGOs that's buying up all the corporations and all this other stuff. It's safe to say that we in them times, man. Okay, so it says tokenization from security tool to future ready payments. This article came out March 10th, 2026, and it says high-profile data breaches and major retailers exposed thousands of consumers' personal account numbers, spurring an adoption of tokenization, a solution that replaces sensitive account data with surrogate values, protecting both consumers and merchants. So remember a lot of these cyber attacks we were having, and bank accounts were being hacked, and the Social Security Administration leaked over so many millions of documents and everybody's information, which in my opinion, I believe was a psyop, because, they need to control the people. See, when you frighten people to the point when their personalized information will be leaked, like money, bank account information, credentials and stuff like that, people will opt in overnight because, they've put their value in things they can tangibly see. Same thing with the biometrics. Certain platforms will require you to use biometric data in order to get in these particular platforms. Like, prime example, on your smartphone, you got biometric data on there. Like, if you got an iPhone, you can unlock your iPhone with your eyes. It scans your face, it uploads it to the system, to the algorithm. The algorithm stores your information, and then if you pick up your phone and tap it to an app through face recognition, it opens up. So that's a step closer to how they want this thing ran, man. And Israelites, they don't seem to see that. It's going to come a time that you're going to need some type of biometrics in order to get on these platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, Snapchat, all these social media platforms. And to have a bank account, you're going to have to pretty much have your biometric data uploaded into the database. That way they can monitor it. It says, as tokenization scaled, its benefits proved to extend well beyond fraud prevention, but merchants often saw meaningful lifts as authorization rates. But the rise of competing token types and the emergence of agentic commerce, it says, and evolved policies from industry leaders have made tokenization strategy more complex than ever. It says in the recent Payments Journal podcast, Kil Cook, principal product manager at Ixopay, and Don Akpar, director of merchant payments and Javelin strategy and research, explored tokenization's performance advantages and why the next phase of change represents an opportunity for merchants to take the reins of their payments destiny. It says, as for tokenization increase, card networks introduce network tokens, payment service providers, which is PSPs, which is issue proprietary or propriety tokens, and third-party develop universal tokens to bridge ecosystems. It says for a time the industry speculated about which format would ultimately prevail. It says the different forms of tokenizations were pitted against each other as a this or that scenario in the beginning, Cook said, but over time, especially 25, what I realized was that they're actually a better together play ultimate when they're talking about payment credentials. We're talking about authorization rates. All right, but it says, but network tokens are a trusted source and typically increase the likelihoods and avoid soft declines, man. All right, so everything is really about ownership and control. You see, the tokenization mandates, it says payment credentials remain incredibly powerful and increasingly difficult to safeguard amid rising fraud sophistication. But to strengthen protections, MasterCard has committed to tokenizing all e-commerce transactions by 2030. But while many support the spirit of this mandate, see, that deadline 2030, all right, and we are already pretty much halfway through 2026. Time is blowing by. It says merchants are struggling with these practical implications, but credit cards will be still widely used in 2030, and issuers will continue to provide PANs to consumers. However, PANs will likely play a diminished role in the transaction lifestyle, and that shift makes universal, merchant-driven tokenization essential, not for only protecting customers, but also maintaining PCI compliance, man. Now, it's like they're playing games. Let's go ahead and implement the RFID chip, because this is what it's all leading to anyway. All this step here, step there. You got the technology, you got the chips. Just go ahead and do what you got to do, man. All right, because it says the rapid evolution of payments, especially in the accelerated of generative and the agentic AI, has created urgency for many merchants to modernize. But while adopting new technologies is important, strategies must remain grounded. It reads, if you go back 10 years ago, we were in the same place with tokenization, and everybody rushed to tokenize as a stopgap security measure, only to find out down the road that I now need more holistic strategy around how I use tokens and what benefits they give me beyond security. Okay, so Visa enhances payment orchestration tools for merchant acquirers. See, and this is a long article. I'm not going to read half of it, but it says Irish banks launch ZipPay and Zelle-like pay-to-payment, pay-to-P, or P2P payment service. They had that, they called it, on the old Galaxy phones, they called it, I forgot what they call it, but you can tap the back of the phone and it can send the information to the other phone. They still do that. Swift moves ahead with retail cross-border payment networks. Digital euro enters pilot phase with questions around its viability. Authorities and tech firms team up to take down phishing platforms. Damn, this is a long article. Robinhood's Platinum Card enters a packed premium market. This is a never-ending article. I didn't even know it was this long. But yeah, this is god damn. Oh, okay. It's just a page. It's like a particular news page. But these are all good information for lessons. I could do a lesson on each article, actually. So yeah, man, I'm keeping that in an arsenal. But anyway, let's go here to the book of Second Corinthians 2:11. It says, "Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we're not ignorant of his devices." Yep, they're pretty much desensitizing people into these digital form of payments. And you know what? We speak on this, we've spoke on this, we've warned the people, we've blew the trumpet, and we sound like a broken record. But you know what? We're gonna continue to push it because, hey, like I said, this is the future. Okay, you're gonna need some type of biometric opting in these platforms in order to continue your life, man. So once again, certain YouTube pages now they're requiring you to upload your credentials like a state ID, driver's license, and to the point you're gonna have to upload something physical. Okay, the what do you call it? The biometric through the eyes. You know, which bio goes into body, I believe. Metric goes into like numbers or measures, and sooner than later, you could swipe your hand or somehow, some way in your device because they're trying to do away with these devices by 2030 because they want it in you, according to what's this clown's name? Was it Elon Musk? I think he mentioned, or Gates, one of them devils. But they mentioned how they want the technology to be inside you. So come a time that when you get the MOTB, it's already going to be programmed to your algorithm, so you can utilize your services because you're going to have certain credentials in order to do it. But there's going to be levels and classes to it because even within this B system, when you get the chip, you're going to have classes of people. Just like today, you got the rich and the lower middle class, which is essentially the poor. Then you got the poor below poverty. Those are classes of people. So even with the chip, the rich, because the super rich is not going to get it. But the rich people, like the millionaires, maybe some billionaires and the 100,000aires, which is pretty much middle class, they're going to have certain privileges and certain spending limits and tokens that they can use a month versus, let's say, the P class, which is the poor. Like you, Jakes, you may start off with 1,000 tokens a month, and that's going to all be to buy your groceries. You buy your groceries, your allowance, pay your bills, and, maybe whatever else you want to do. And you're going to have like certain travel restrictions. Okay, you may only be allowed to travel, let's say, an hour a day, up to maybe an hour and 15 minutes outside of your jurisdiction. Then it flags you, and then if you don't comply, then they can shut your information off, or they can come and arrest you or detain you or fine you. Versus the super rich, they're not going to be bound by any of this. Now, the millionaires, like the millionaires, they'll have pretty much free reign to do what they want to do. Okay, they may still be able to operate a vehicle. They may get so many tokens a month to do what they want to do, and they'll have access to certain benefits in this economy versus you Jakes, man. And that's how they gonna do it. All right. But you other camps, man, we don't know what the hell wrong with you Jakes, man. Scripture say you're like dumb dogs that can't bark. Call yourselves the prophets of the Lord, but y'all not pushing this prophecy. Isaiah 56, and I'm gonna start at verses let's start at verses 10. It says, "His watchmen are blind and they're all ignorant. They're all dumb dogs. They cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber." Yeah, a dumb dog, is a person that's silent. Doesn't mean that you're mentally incompetent. It just means that you're incapable of blowing a trumpet. Like, what's the purpose of having a dog? Even though you have different dogs for different reasons, but the primary function of a dog is to bark. I don't give a fuck what breed it is. Any dog of any particular breed, whether it be Shih Tzu, Chihuahua, Pit Bull, Yorkie, Mastiff, bull, those bull mastiffs, a German Shepherd, a Husky, they all have one thing in common. They can bark when needed. But you Israelites claim to be prophets and you ain't barking, bro. We're barking. Yeah, they are greedy dogs which can never have enough. And they are shepherds that cannot understand that they all look to their own quarters, everyone from his own gain, from his quarter, And that's you Jakes, man. Jake is in this truth for the wrong reason. That's why guys like Tazariak will never teach the mark of the beast properly, because they're being backed by a PR firm, 501c3. And ultimately, them ninjas took the bag, just like other people that we know, But it's going to come a time that your congregation is going to question you about these things, and you ain't going to be able to give them an answer they're looking for, they need. And a lot of them going to get caught up in a jam because of you, and they're going to seek to put a lot of you to death, man. All right, because the scriptures say here, Ezekiel 13:4, it says, O Israel, thy prophets are like the foxes in deserts. It says, ye have not gone into the gaps. The gaps is the highways. Neither have made up the hedge of the house of Israel to stand in the day of battle in the day of the Lord. Okay? Because you ain't warning them. You ain't telling them. Just like, once again, I'm going to go back to that brother that was of the IUIC. When the brother Amawan Gabar, the elder, he did a video on it. And basically, the testimony was that the dude from the IUIC, he said they was not prepared for the times we're coming into because they don't push these things, man. Now, Nate may go into prophecy here and there, but ultimately, their doctrine is not prophet-centric. Okay, it's not based on eschatology, which means the study of the end. All right, they don't believe in that for real. Even if they do, they don't push it. ISUPK don't. The mother camps don't. Genesis, the only reason why they attempt to go into prophecy, which they do pretty horrible at, is because Al-Azhar called them out. You know, but other than that, they don't. Their doctrine is not prophetic-centric. It's just not. It's about saving heathens. All right. But 2nd Ezra 16:68, it says, for behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they should take away a certain of you and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols. That's that chip, man. In them concentration camps, because word through the grapevine is that these new detention centers that ICE is supposed to be purchasing, I believe they bought maybe like 9 or 10 of 23. Allegedly, they are building Neuralink centers right inside these concentration camps. So it makes sense that in these concentration camps, people will be getting MOTB'd in there, man. It's a bargain. Hey, you get the chip, you get out. If you don't, then we'll cut your head off, which makes all the sense in the world, because other than that, how else would it be beheading for people that don't accept the chip if they wasn't going to be doing it in the FEMA camps, which I believe a mass amount of that chipping will come in those detention centers, because that's their plan, to put majority of the people that don't comply with the New World Order inside a concentration camp, man. All right. And hey, watch. And it says, for that should be in every place. No, it says, and they that consent unto them should be had in derision and reproach and trodden underfoot. So if you consented to them, you cook. And unfortunately, a lot of you Israelites are going to consent to them because you don't know not to, and you have not been built up for this very evil time. Okay. So I'm going to end it. All praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Bashim Yahweh Shai, Bashim Rakakwadash. Lord's will, you were edified. Until the next lesson. Shalom.
Which is good for illegal activities, getting control of illegal activities, but it also means that the government has a great deal of control. For example, they can tax that way, they can take your money, they can establish foreign exchange controls and the like, and that'll so that's something that will be an increasing issue, particularly for international holders of that currency, because they might feel, let's say, if you're a Frenchman and they wanted to have sanctions, they could take your money,
of course.
You know, and so on. So there's the privacy issue of that.
And if you're politically disfavored, you could be shut off.
Politically disfavored, you could be shut off. Yes.
Game over. No, seriously, game over. Because apparently this war that we're watching, yeah, it's really not about oil. It's not really about geopolitics. It's not even about winning. It might be about replacing your money. You know, that green little thing called the US dollar in your pocket? Yeah, the one that you're working for, saving, maybe stressing over. Yeah, that one might be quietly getting escorted out the back door while everyone's distracted watching missiles fly on TV. Because while Donald J. Trump is out here basically saying, hey, Iran, we can turn your entire power grid into a fireworks show by tomorrow, the markets are over here having a full-blown panic attack.
Unfortunately, there's a long history of regional Middle East conflicts, and the markets need to adapt to that. So that means there's a lot of historical precedent for how markets do digest these events. Now, what we can basically say is that such conflicts tend not to end a bull market in stocks. In fact, it's almost never happened. In fact, in 1990 and 2003, the outbreak of hostilities between the U.S. and Iraq actually triggered an end of a bear market and the beginning of an upturn. That being said, usually there is a reflex pullback in the markets. Usually it's brief and shallow. Maybe it lasts a few days or a week. And it's almost entirely dependent in the short term on how much oil prices go up. The transmission mechanism between turmoil in the Middle East and the U.S. economy and financial markets tends to be the oil price.
What we've heard from oil industry executives and analysts is that we're in a narrow and closing window to stop the damage from the war in Iran from getting significantly worse. Sometime in early to mid-April, a number of stopgap measures that the U.S. and others have put in place will simply run out.
Countries that don't have the fuel are already in the process of rationing it, and the rest of us are going to have to get there very soon.
Stocks are dropping, oil spiking, Bitcoin doing whatever Bitcoin does when it gets emotionally unstable. Yeah. And right in the middle of all of this, the Strait of Hormuz, aka the world's don't touch this or everything breaks button, suddenly becomes the world's most important place on Earth. Totally normal. Nothing to see here, folks. Meanwhile, the same people who told you that inflation was transitory are back again, looking at you, Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell, probably warming up the money printer like it's a 2008 reunion tour. And of course, you've got Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, who have been saying for years, hey guys, every crisis is a great opportunity to reset everything. Oh, good. Fantastic. Love that for us, right? And just by coincidence, pure coincidence, I'm sure, you got companies like BlackRock and Tether building the financial plumbing for a whole new system while all of this chaos unfolds. But yeah, I'm sure it's just about oil. Sure. So the real question is, are we watching a war, or are we watching the dollar get quietly replaced while everyone's just too busy arguing on social media?